Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that you can actually stream right now on Netflix, and that is the fourth installment in the Beverly Hills Cop franchise with Eddie Murphy. This time it's entitled Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley, or Axel F in this case, if you're looking for it on Netflix. Like I said, this is a streaming exclusive. This is not playing in theaters anywhere, unfortunately, which I kind of hoped it really was after you'll see how I feel about it in a minute here with my review. But this is a Netflix exclusive, so there is no way to see it in theaters, unfortunately. But in this fourth installment, it's been many years since the third Beverly Hills Cop. I think it actually came out in 1994 for the third one, I believe. So many years since the third one came out. So we do follow Axel Foley, several decades later. We find out he is working in Detroit, Michigan, and he has like a new partner and everything. But he gets called back into Beverly Hills in California when there is a cop killer case going around. It does involve some of his old former colleagues and friends that we know from the earlier Beverly Hills Cop films. So Axel Foley gets brought in there. He goes to Beverly Hills, tries to help them out any way that he can. Tries to reconnect with old friends and old cop buddies and everything like that. But one problem that Axel faces is his daughter, who is several years into her adulthood now. We do find out that he had a daughter ever since the events of the third film. And she's in her early 30s, but she's also a lawyer. And unfortunately, ever since she was born, her and her father never really connected very much. They don't really get along when they were in person together. And when one of the clients involving this case that Axel takes on does involve one of his daughter's clients for this lawyer case that she's taking on. So over the course of this film, Axel Foley has to figure out who the cop killer is, what exactly this Kevin Bacon character wants, because he's a big role in this film, and how can he connect with his estranged daughter that he really hasn't been a great father to, and what can he do to kind of fix everything so that the two of them can be a good father and daughter match again? What can they do to be family again? And so that all happens over the course of Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley. So overall, guys, I enjoyed this film for the most part. There's a couple things about I think that could have been better, but it's great to see Eddie Murphy play Axel Foley again, and it's just great to see Eddie Murphy in a good film again. He's had a ton of misses over the years, but he's had a lot of hits, obviously, in his early career, and I would say, I would say before the mid 2000s, he was on like a huge stretch of nothing but successful films. Ran into quite a few bumps over the years, but I do think he is kind of back on the right track now with this new Beverly Hills Cop film. So let's go over some positives and negatives of reasons why I like this film, but maybe why it's not my favorite. Maybe why this is kind of the reason why the first Beverly Hills Cop is probably still going to be my favorite of this franchise. But for my positives and negatives, for the positives first, the choice of music and the film tone are very much in the vein of the first film. Just the way that the music transitions, the way that even they have remixes on certain music, the way the soundtrack choices are handled, just the overall tone, even the kind of the grain and the color palette feels very much in something you'd see in like a 1980s film like the first Beverly Hills Cop movie. Tons of fun. They definitely had the right tone for this. I loved everything as far as the music choices and the film tone went for this film. It also has most of the first film's characters back. We do see a lot of those alumni characters. We see Taggart and Judge Reinhold's character, and we see a lot of his cop buddies from the first film. Obviously, we get to learn about Axel Foley's daughter ever since the events of the third film, and so it's just great to see all these characters again. It's great to catch up with Axel Foley and kind of things that are going on in his life, and it's just great to see overall these familiar faces from the first film return for another installment for the franchise. And overall, too, I remember because I was watching this film with a friend of mine. Another huge positive I can give this film is I wouldn't mind seeing a fifth Beverly Hills Cop film at this point. I really wouldn't mind continuing this franchise even more now that I kind of know what's going on in Axel Foley's life. And I would like to see some follow up information regarding kind of where he's going to go next after the events of this film. So, hey, if Netflix has the rights and if they want to do another one, and if Eddie Murphy wants to do another one, I say go for it. Let's make another one. Let's make at least two more of these. They have the rights for the franchise now. Let's just make one or two more of these at least here. I really think we could. I think we can continue this again. I really think we could bring this back and bring it on strong and learn from our mistakes. And if they want to greenlight a fifth film, I'm all for it. So if Netflix is listening, let's make another one of these. This is pretty fun. And another positive I have for this movie is Axel Foley's humor and sense of action are back here. So if you like the way that Eddie Murphy kind of balanced both worlds in those first three Beverly Hills Cop films, he brings it back here for this new one. So for those who are doubting it all or worried that his age would play into this film too much, do not worry at all. This is the Axel Foley you know and love. His humor and his action have not dropped a ball at all. And overall, I do like the characters of Axel Foley's daughter and the new Joseph Gordon-Levitt partner that he has. He plays like this new cop buddy of his. It's great to see the two of them. They even kind of have a little bit of a history together. You'll find out over the course of this film. Great characters, great kind of parallels to Axel Foley and kind of the challenges that they would bring to being, different personalities compared to Axel Foley. Great new characters. If they break, like I said, if they greenlight a fifth film, I would be totally okay with these two characters coming back. And we do briefly see Axel Foley working in Detroit, Michigan. And if they do another one, like I said, I wouldn't mind if they do Axel Foley in another location. I think that's kind of interesting. Just the fact that they had a little bit of this film in Detroit, Michigan added a new flavor to the franchise. And so it was great to see that. I kind of hope they do more of that if they choose to make more of these. It was a great new flavor for the franchise. And I think when you're 4 films in, you have to worry about those new flavors and new genres. And I feel like this film does a great job of kind of combining all that and exploring something new. But for my negatives of Beverly Hills Cop 4, unfortunately the pace is very uneven here, and unfortunately the way the film flows is also very uneven as well. It just feels kind of slow. There's just a lot of times where the slower moments feel like they go on for a little longer than they should. I'm okay with character development and all that kind of stuff, but unfortunately, if those moments feel too long or too dragged out, or if your budget is kind of restricting you from doing bigger ideas, it's going to be noticeable by the time the final product comes out. So I kind of wish the pacing and the flow of this film would have been more impressive from what they went with. And overall, some of the youthful energies that Eddie Murphy's character had in those earlier films do feel a little gone here because he is, divorced and has a kid already and all that kind of stuff. He's not really the Axel Foley celebrity slash, bachelor that we once knew him as in those earlier films. That aspect of his personality is kind of gone now. He doesn't really do, he doesn't try to drag his friends and cop buddies into strip clubs anymore or anything like that anymore. So some of his youthful energy that he had in those earlier films, though I think they transitioned him pretty well into this phase of Eddie Murphy's life, I do wish that that youthful energy could have been maintained a little bit more for this film. I felt a little lost this time around. So I thought some of that youthful energy from earlier Beverly Hills Cop films did feel kind of lost this time around. And overall, this is a very predictable story and villain. You know exactly who the villain is the second he enters the screen. And I knew exactly where the story was going to go. There's really no surprises with that. You know exactly where a lot of these characters' directions are going to be heading. So don't expect too much surprises because, unfortunately, the story is kind of predictable this time around. And overall, I thought some of the action scenes were a little unrealistic. There's just like a scene, for example, where Eddie Murphy has to borrow a golf cart for a police officer that's giving out tickets, and so he really needs this cart to chase after somebody. And the cop is trying to get him off the cart by putting pepper spray into his eyes because she has it on her. And the fact that Eddie Murphy just like wipes it off with his hand and just like splashes a little bit of water on it later and he's perfectly fine. There's things like that. There's just like, okay, I don't think I completely buy that as it is because if he really did have pepper spray in his eyes, he wouldn't be able to see for a very long time. So certain scenes like that feel very unrealistic to me. So be aware that there is some scenes here where certain kind of scenarios play out like that. But overall, I'm going to give Beverly Hills Cop Axel Foley an 8.5 out of 10. Very fun film, very nostalgic, and moves things along the way that it should. Tons of things I liked about the film, but unfortunately there is some things about it that I wish could have been better, specifically the pacing and the flow of the story I think really needed some improvement, but 8.5 out of 10 for me. I do highly recommend seeing it, so if you do have Netflix, be sure to check it out, and if Netflix decides to make more Beverly Hills Cop films, I'm going to be totally there for it. So 8.5 out of 10 for me, and I do recommend seeing this film.